guys, it's Charles here again. Thanks for coming back to another series of how to invest in real estate. This week we're going to talk about offers. So by this point, you have sorted out your financing, you know which strategy you want to apply, you know which city you want to invest in, and you have analyzed tons of deals and you know you have found a deal that you would like to pursue, right? So we're going to get into offers now. First things first, you have to understand seller's motivation. This is key, right? And you can do that by having your realtor call and talk to the seller's agent and you visiting the property yourself. And you're kind of like a detective at this point. You're looking around, looking at their calendar, looking at their pictures, see if there's any clue for you. And the question that you should be asking yourself is, have they bought a new place already? Maybe they have a firm date that they have to move out and they need to use the proceeds of the sale to fund for the new property. Maybe they're ill, maybe there are pills everywhere, right? Not to say that we're gonna take advantage of them, but that's a good hint for us, right? Maybe it's an estate sale. The owner has passed away and that the deal is being handled by an executor, right? Who is coordinating all the wills and all the proceeds to the family members, right? Is this an investor or is it an owner selling the property, right? It's a very different mindset. Investors are really looking for their returns, right? So for them, price is more important. However, for an owner, maybe they care more about who is moving in because they have pride in the home ownership, right? They want to have a nice family to take over and they don't want their property to become like a rooming home. Check the history and the listing and the days on market. This is crucial. If your realtor is not doing this for every deal you place in offer, they're doing something wrong, because this tells you half of the story. Have this property being listed. When was the last time it was listed? Has it been listed every single year and then they have failed to sell it, or they haven't listed since 1950s, right? And it's an original owner. Very, very different. And if they have listed, how many days on the property? Why is it not selling if it's over 7 days, right? These are the questions you need to ask. Who is handling the negotiation, right? So in a lot of times, 90% of the time, it's the seller's agent. But sometimes it's the seller's agent, but from a discount brokerage. That is very, very different thing. Because I notice for discount brokerages, they have departments for negotiation. They have departments for marketing. Basically, it's one real estate agent split into multiple different departments. They don't have any connection with the seller. Maybe they don't know them as well as a regular agent, and certainly they will not work as hard as regular agents, right? So if they're being sold from a discount brokerages, chances are, the negotiation, you have to use a different approach. Or maybe if it's sold by the seller directly, that could be a good sign as well, because a lot of times these sellers, unless they're flippers, they're not really experienced in negotiation, right? They're not doing trades day to day, and maybe the last time they've sold or bought was 5 or 10 years ago, right? So they're not quite sure what the nuance is with the industry standard, and they're not hiring the professionals to handle it, so it could be a very different conversation. And sometimes it could be a city sale. So in Hamilton, I've seen that recently, where some of the property that has been used as a subsidized housing for low-income families, now the city is taking them back and redistributing back to the public market. So they're liquidating for other investments or whatnot, right? If that's the case, then it's gonna take a longer time. Sometimes they don't even have property tax assist because it's all brand new, right? So that could be a different conversation as well. Always ask disclosures and insurance claims. What I mean by that is, has the house been on fire before? Was there a major leak where they had insurance claims? Or maybe the house was used as a grown-ups for marijuana, right? These are the things legally the listing agent must disclose, right? So you have to ask these questions. Okay, so when you're ready to submit an offer, it's very important to know that there are three types of listings. The first one is offer anytime, right? You can put in an offer anytime. Usually they require 24 hours irrevocable, but offer anytime. Usually these listings are priced at market value or a little bit higher, and they're just waiting it out. They're waiting for some buyers to pick up. Second type of listing is it's listed, but it's slightly below market value and it's asking for 48 hours irrevocable, right? So they are trying to generate multiple offers within that 2-day period, right? The third type of listing is offer on specific date and time. So in other words, they're holding offers. This type of strategy is very, very often seen in a seller's market where the seller thinks they can have multiple bids to outbid what they can get above and beyond market value, right? So if that's the case, as a buyer, you have two choices. First, you can either submit a bully offer, so something offer that is very strong with hopefully no condition and quick closing, or you can wait it out to see if there's gonna be a lot of offers, or maybe there aren't gonna be a lot of offers, right? And if there are a lot of offers, like 10 to 20 offers, then you have to stand out. One of the way you can stand out without putting in more money is to draft up a cover letter. You can do a nice cover letter that introduces your buyer, yourself, and why you want to buy the house, so that some of the sellers, they can see, who is going to be moving, who is behind the offer letter. Another thing that I have noticed is that what can we do to help the seller's life a little bit easier, right? There was one deal where it was an elderly who was living a very nice home, but inside the home there was a lot of cosmetic damage, and she was a kind of a hoarder, so she had a lot of garbage and house stuff that she should have thrown away, but she just kept them all, right? So for her, the price was important, but not as important as if someone came in and said, you know what, you take whatever you need, and all the garbage, everything else, will handle it, right? So in that case, the winning offer was actually someone not with the highest price, but someone who came in and said, we're gonna take care of everything, hassle-free, you just take whatever you need, we'll even take care of your moving cost, right? And that's how they got the house. So a little bit creativity goes a long way. Okay, now getting to the detail of the offer. First is the price, and when you're drafting up the price, you can often do a comparable search, do a 60 days analysis to see what recently was the sold price of the similar property types. Next, you have to decide your irrevocable date. That's when the offer is good till, and until then, the buyer who's submitting offer cannot change the content of the offer. And you have to choose your closing date. Usually as an investor, we try to get as long as possible, 60 days, because during that time, you can have an inspector coming in, you can have a contractor coming in, you can have your designer coming in, so that by the time you close, hopefully you'll have the permits ready to do the renovation, and maybe within that time, you may even have experienced some appreciations. Next will be deposit amount. So that's the amount of money you will pay once your offer is accepted. Usually it's within 24 hours, and the larger the deposit, the more skin you have in the game. Rental items. Make sure you check if there are any rental items. Hot water tank is a common one, but sometimes I've seen ACs or air conditioning or furnace being rented out as well. Those usually do not have a very favorable financing, so it is better to negotiate with the seller to see if they can buy them out prior to closing. Open permit. If you're buying a property, you think it recently went through a renovation, make sure you go to your city's website, punch in the property address to see if there's any open permits. The last thing you want is close on the property and you realize, oh, there's still open permits that are open, and for it to close, you need to do such and such and such, and it may not be very simple. And then you get into conditions, right? If your offer has condition, and the more conditions you have, the weaker your offer is. But sometimes you have to protect yourself. Financing is a big one, right? So it's a conditional offer based on you getting the mortgage that you need prior to closing. And if you have a very good financing in place or you're already pre-approved, make sure you let the seller know, because the more confident you are communicating with the seller how good your financing is, the better the chance you're going to get accepted. Next will be inspection, right? You want to identify big ticket items before you even close. So hire the right inspector. And from my experience, Carson Dunlop certified inspector, they're very, very good and very, very trustworthy, very thorough. Revisit, right? You want to gain as much revisit as possible so that you can go back to property with contractors, inspectors, your designers, all sorts of things, right? So you can prepare for when closing. Tenants. If you're purchasing a property that already have a tenants inside and they're not giving you vacant position, then you have to make sure you get the current up-to-date pro forma of the property. And you have to know if the tenants, what they're paying, have they paid, if they missed any payments, is there any rental arrears, right? What's behind, what's the story behind it? The best would be to get the property vacant, right? That way you can put in your own tenants and get a market value rent. Zoning certificate or zoning verification, depending on city you're in. If you're buying duplex, triplex, make sure if they're advertising as a duplex, make sure it's a legal duplex, meaning the city has given their blessing and you don't have to worry about kicking out one of your tenant or closing down one of the units, right? So make sure you get that. Land survey. This is very helpful if you are going to submit a permit application, especially you need to widen up your driveway or something like that. But it may not be possible depending on how many ownership this property went through, but it's a good thing to ask. And lastly, it will be letter of authorization. This just means you are giving authorization from the seller to apply for the building permit before you even take position, right? So that you can get things rolling, okay? And yeah, you just submit it, and you can either submit through person, you can either submit by email, right? There's different ways you can present the offer. A lot of times that is dictated by the listing agent. Nowadays, a lot of them is through email, but I've seen some odd ones where you can actually go to the house and present to the seller and the listing agent face to face. And I think that is a very effective and powerful way of presenting an offer if you had the opportunity. So there's three outcomes. They could either reject your offer. So in that case, then maybe you can resubmit another offer with an improved condition, price, whatever, or maybe they have countered the offer. If they counter the offer, there's a new irrevocable date and time, and within that date, you as the buyer have to make a decision. Do we accept or do we reject, right? Or you can even re-counter. And for the lucky ones, maybe they have accepted your offer. If that's the case, congratulations, you are first step into becoming a landlord, and you have 24 hours to pay the deposit, and you have 5 business days to fulfill all of your conditions that you have put in your offer, right? So that's it for offer submissions. If you guys like this kind of content, make sure you go to my website at charlie.com, grab your free deal analyzer spreadsheet, start analyzing deals, And if you can give me a like or subscribe, that would really motivate me to keep going. Thank you very much. Have a nice week.